I watched that documentary.
The afterlife. Does it exist? This is a common question asked amongst most, but why is it so secret? Welcome to Secrets Within, a show about all things paranormal straight from the investigator's mouth. No fluffy scripting here, just raw paranormal talk about ghosts, Bigfoot, black-eyed children, equipment, and more. Host Reeni Rodriguez is no stranger to the paranormal and has been fascinated for years. One of her longtime passions is being a medium and further developing her skills. She's also a certified Reiki master and paranormal investigator. Now, here is your host of Secrets Within, Reeni Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Secrets Within. I am with Nicole Strickland tonight. I am super excited about that. And I'm going to let Nicole tell you about all of the cool things that she's done really quickly before we kind of dive in.
Like, oh, wow.
Your show.
Put me on the spot. Well, no, thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm excited. Oh, my goodness. So I have a show, too, on the network, The Afterlife Chronicles, which airs Thursday nights at 6 p.m., 8 Central, 9 Eastern, which is a lot of fun. So that's pretty much about it right now. I'm just working on some books and I'm doing the show with you. And here we are.
Yes. And we're actually going to talk about Jim Jones, the People's Temple, you know, and I know a lot of people are like, I guess maybe I don't understand that. And I know I don't know how they don't know, but they should, because it was a huge thing. I mean, he was technically a cult leader, in my opinion. I've been watching some documentaries, and I've always been kind of a little intrigued by him, just in general, because he was a preacher. He started out as a preacher,
mm-hmm.
and that to me in itself, like, was awesome because he had the right idea. Like, so he kind of knew how to, you know, talk to everybody, kind of get everybody together. And the cool thing, and I don't want to say the cool thing because there was the only good thing I think that really came out of that whole him preaching thing is back then, and I can't remember the year. I know that you probably do. Maybe I don't.
Yeah, there's so much to read, and I was actually reading up on it before the show, and like his background, I mean, even from his childhood, I didn't realize that his parents, like, he felt abandoned.
He did.
And that, there were like financial issues, and so he grew up feeling all unloved, and I think that kind of propelled him into wanting to do, you know, become a preacher and all of that. And then it's just insane.
Well, I do know that he went to many different churches, like when he was younger. So it wasn't one in particular that he went to. But I do know, like, during that time period, like, excuse me, I got a burp.
I will too. I'm drinking Diet 7-Up, so one's gonna come up
drinking
soon.
Diet Coke. I'm like, oh man.
Oh man.
But I will say that, like, he back then, you know, he adopted kids from, like, you know, when he got married and so on. He adopted kids from all different backgrounds. It wasn't just back then, it was not, I guess, what they would call appropriate during that time period. Because from what I'm understanding, he only had one biological son. um, that I could
And are you
find.
referring to the John Victor Stowen?
Yes.
Yeah, that's, oh my goodness. That poor child.
Um,
I think I was confused if he was really biological parents. What are their names? Tim and Grace, I think. Grace and Tim Stowen were their biological parents. Because I've heard conflicting information about that. I don't know if the documentary
right.
said anything about that.
Well, here's the issue. I think that kind of lies with that is when they did go to when they had Jonestown, when they went to Guyana and they had all of that. Here's where the issue kind of lied, which was it got a little confusing. Um, he was having more children with other people.
Yes, I read that.
Um, Hi, Jennifer. But like I said, that was the issue. So I know that he had Steven. Um, we'll get into him a little bit more, but I do know that that was to me in itself. I thought like him adopting, children from different backgrounds. To me, I felt like that was kind of like the only good thing that he did, especially during that time period. But
Yeah.
other than that, like you took something great and like just screwed everything up. It just in my
Yeah,
opinion.
that's yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, the one good, like you said, and then he was all about racial, just
Equal,
integration
yeah.
and all of that, equality, which was great. How can someone go from that to then what he did at Guyana, the whole revolutionary suicide? But then I was
Mhm.
reading that some members were accusing him of abuse too, as well. I read somewhere that I guess the kids, if they like misbehaved, would go to the bottom of a well and be upside down
Mhm.
for a night. I mean, like, how can you go from it's just insane.
Well, I guess
It just
okay.
baffles me.
Though, like I said, him in general baffles me.
Yeah.
The weird thing is he was a good speaker. Like I
Yeah.
listened to some of the things that he was like preaching, and he was a phenomenal speaker. And he could have done so much just with just that and
Mhm.
the stuff that he was doing. But I think the power and the control that he had, I think he just kind of wanted to take it to the next level.
I think
Um,
so too. I agree. Almost, and then he became like extremely paranoid and thought that, the CIA and everyone was coming to destroy him and all of that. I mean, that's so it's paranoia, but yeah, it's almost like he had like a, what do you call it? Like a very big, large spiritual ego that developed.
oh, I think so.
Huge, like huge.
Um, but I guess okay, so I kind of want to fast forward just a second there, like talk about actual like them going into Jonestown, the People's Temple, how it kind of all started. Because in all actuality, everybody's like, some people probably just don't know. But I do know that when these people decided that they were going to follow him, clearly,
Mhm.
they gave up their homes. I mean, they signed them over.
Yeah.
all, all of their bank accounts, everything. So just to go live because they in the jungle, which in all actuality, like living off the grid. I mean, a lot of people like that, but I think he like again, he took it to the next level. And I know they all built the houses. They had a health clinic. Um, but they had all of that and they built it themselves. They grew their own food. They did all of that, and I was like, oh, okay. What it first starts out like that, and you're like, oh, that's great. That's great. But then he was actually making them sign documents when they got there, and he wouldn't let them read them, and they were actually signing their children over.
Yep. I read that as well. I think it was something like around 3,000 acres out there. And then it
Mm-hmm.
was started out as like this agricultural community.
Mhm.
And he was all about, if I remember correctly, he was all about socialism. So like he was, as a kid, he would read books and be heavily influenced by, let's say, Hitler, Stalin, Karl Marx, like all of those guys. And so this whole
Well
thing started out like as a socialist sort of community, and it just went off. So sad.
well, here's the thing, this is what I found very weird, is he liked Buddha's teaching, and I thought, "Whoa,
Mm-hmm.
I think you got that all wrong." I mean, just
Right?
you got that
You
all
think?
you got that
Like,
all wrong. Okay, like, that's
all messed up.
well, because like I said, I think what he did is he kinda, like, because he claimed like, I watched an interview with his son, Steven, and his son claimed that, because he said that he was a healer and that people would just go to him, and basically he said that it was kind of one of those things like it's just what they wanted to think. So if somebody says that they couldn't walk, he goes, they probably could walk. They just
Yeah. That brings me to something too. I remember
Mhm,
reading that, I guess, I forget who it was, but one of the members, she was a female member, I guess they tranquilized her. And then
mhm.
when she woke up, or they put a cast on her arm. And then when she woke up with the cast, people were telling her, like, oh, well, let's take the cast off. And then when the cast was taken off, her arm was fine, which it was before. And so they were telling her, like, oh, he healed, Jim Jones, he healed. And they all called him dad too, which was weird. Yeah, he healed your arm. And it was like, he would trick people and lie and stuff. I mean, just it's so sick, like sick.
Like I said, like that in itself, I, uh, I don't know. I couldn't imagine like being tranquilized. Like I know that I did not break my arm or
And I
or
know,
my
right?
leg.
I know, my gosh. And the drugs too. Like,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
no, like he sat there and was like, "Oh, nobody here could take drugs, but I'm the only one that can pill pop."
Mm-hmm.
And I think in itself, it kind of made him crazy.
Yeah, and then you had all those health issues too that were like,
Mhm,
but at home, I mean, here we all thought it was cyanide poisoning, but apparently they had, I read, okay, there was Valium, there was Demerol, there
mhm.
was pentobarbital, I think, there was sodium pentothal, there, and then there was cyanide, all mixed in, and that's, with the mass suicide, what they drank and all that. I mean, it was even theorized at that day for lunch, the day of the revolutionary suicide, that maybe their grilled cheese sandwiches for lunch were laced.
Well, so here's the weird
I mean, where
thing.
do they get all those drugs? Like, I mean, that's insane.
Okay, but
Where?
I've thought about that myself, and I thought, okay, well, what happens if some of these people had to have that medication and they were told that they had to surrender
Right.
their medication? Because we have to look at the fact that there was probably at one point over 1,000 followers, but
Yeah, about, yeah.
that's not how many that died, but there was like about 1,000 of them. Um, so I kind of questioned that myself. I'm like, well, I mean, depending upon how many people have had all these drugs, I mean, they could have had to surrender them over. So I mean, he could have had a supply um for I mean years,
Yeah.
before they actually even left. And it's like, oh, get your refills. Because I mean, I don't know how it was back then, but I know now it's kind of hard. Like, well, you still have a couple days.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, exactly. Especially if it's a controlled substance. Like, you can't fill that until the day it's due. Like, we all know that, but
mhm.
it's insane. And then I was wondering, okay, how did they get all that cyanide? I read somewhere that apparently he got it because, don't quote me on this, something about how he wanted to clean gold with it, I think. And so that's how he got the cyanide, something about that I read, but it's just
I d-
insane. I mean, it was just all this that's what, the whole saying, drink the Kool-Aid, but I don't think it was called Kool-Aid what they drank, or what they had, what they sometimes they would inject with syringes into the mouths of the kids. Oh my God, it's just so tragic. It just, ugh.
And I seen that because I heard that they actually made the children go first. Which to me in itself is just crazy.
They did. Yeah. I think it was like the bees, the young kids, the older kids, the younger adults, the adults, and the older people.
Right. And if they didn't want it, it didn't matter. People were holding them down to actually go, just do it. Like, that's too bad. You have no choice. But what I did watch an interview with his son, Stephen, he actually said that he doesn't believe that it was a suicide. He believes that it was murder. What exactly happened there? Which some of it was, but then here's the thing. He had a gunshot wound to his head. They are saying like, oh no, somebody shot him. Well, I don't think he had enough balls to actually take any of the drugs.
Exactly.
That he was giving somebody else. And I know people were hiding. And then we have to factor in the fact that there was people. This is why there was the suicide, is because we had news reporters coming. We had, what was it? The governor.
Yeah, some congressman. I think his name was Leo Ryan. Yeah, he came out.
Yes, congressman. Because people wanted to leave and they couldn't really leave. And some of their family wanted to come and see them. And he knew right then and there. But see, the weird thing is he had this thing called White Night, and they prepared for this.
I read, yes.
Over and over
like
again.
A drill. Oh my God.
And then he would give them stuff to drink to see how loyal and prepare them. So he knew automatically how all of this would play out. But
that seems like premeditation almost.
Right. And I guess like that whole White Night thing, the siren would come on. He's like, White Night, White Night. And actually people were hiding in the jungle with pellet guns to scare. And then he would have people run out, and there's just if somebody wants to leave, you're going to get shot.
Yeah, they had the guards there, especially on that day, the day of the actual November 18th, I think it was, or 14th. I think it was November 18th. That night when it was all going down, they had the guards there. So anyone that wanted to escape, they would be taken down. And I don't know if you've listened to his last 45-minute sermon. It's called The Death Tape. Now I've listened to it, and I wish I hadn't, because it's disgusting. It really literally made me depressed after hearing that, because you hear everything that's going down.
Well, I watched, it was, I don't know. I know that the Army National Guard came in, and then there was a tape, a recording. And it does make you kind of want to cry. Anybody that wants to watch that documentary, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Oh no, it made me cry totally.
And that was one thing. And then his sons, there's people that left the temple. There was one guy who got out, but his son he couldn't take his son out. And honestly, I would have never left without my kid. I've been you know what? We're going down. If she's going down, we're going down too.
Exactly.
I'm not leaving without them. But he's like that. He goes, but I was so worried because he was my son was half, African American. And I was like, and?
Right.
But we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back.
A certified spiritual life coach, animal communicator, past life regression, and a psychic medium. This is Charlie Lynn. Charlie Lynn and Chat with Charlie work with you to bring communication and understanding from spirit to those looking to gain insight. Charlie Lynn's spiritual journey has brought her to you, so take advantage and contact Charlie Lynn today. Book a reading, indulge in some Reiki work, or take the next step in your life with some spiritual life coaching. No matter, Charlie Lynn is here to help you. Search Chat with Charlie on Facebook. That's Chat with Charlie on Facebook.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Secrets Within. I'm with Nicole Strickland, and we are talking about, I know, she's like my favorite, one of my favorite people.
Oh, likewise. Oh,
No.
you're so sweet.
Me and Ashley, my co-host from,
You can't even think.
we were talking about, I don't even know anymore. We were talking about it yesterday. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's so sweet. I was like, I know. She's so awesome.
Oh, I think the same about you guys. I love your shows. Your show, both two shows on the network. Look at you. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Likewise.
But this evening we're talking about Jim Jones, People's Humble. We're kind of all over the place, which is fine. That's the way I like to do it. I'm just there. I like to.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
And
That's
I know,
good.
like Nicole always has like a little spreadsheet of.
So I don't forget stuff, because if I don't, I'll be like, yeah, okay.
I tried that, and then like everything was just. I was like, I'm over it.
You know what?
And then I was like reading stuff. I'm like, oh no,
Everyone's different.
So I feel like, whatever. But we're talking about Jim Jones, People's Temple, and then, like I said, we're kind of all over the place. We're just kind of giving you a little rundown. I'm not saying rush out and watch the documentary. I've watched it. Nicole said that she's watched it. There's my suggestion: don't watch it. Okay.
Oh, it's so depressed. It's so. I mean, to even talk about this, it's just disgusting what happened to those people.
It is, and like I said, I don't personally believe in a way that it was suicide. I believe that it was murder. Like, I believe like he's brainwashed them, and he was had everybody so scared that if they didn't do this, they were going to get shot. And there was the gunman who killed the congressman. There was a guy from NBC,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, that were killed just by trying to bring back some people that wanted to come home. They wanted to go back. They just didn't want to stay there. They knew that, I think at that point, this one guy was there for like 7 years. He knew that it was not for him. He said the moment that he stepped off that plane into Jonestown, I should say, they probably had to fly in. And it was, I think, they had to take a pickup to even get.
I think so.
Yeah, because you couldn't do all that, and you couldn't walk. But he said as soon as he set foot into Jonestown, like, he knew it was a bad idea. But I feel like if probably before, like, if you're going to get off that plane, probably think, oh, I don't know if this is a good idea. I'm going to go home. Forget it. But like I said, he did leave his son there, and he said that was his, biggest regret. But like I said, from what I'm understanding, Jim Jones made you sign over basically everything: your money, your house, your children. But you weren't allowed to drink. You weren't allowed to do drugs. I mean, basically, you're just living off the land. That's what he wanted. He wanted that control. And he made him sleep deprived.
Yeah. He followed, it was some North Korea, I think, regimen of like, okay, 8-hour workday, 8 hours, like very strict, like 6 days. And then I think it was reduced to 5 days, but still, I mean, but yet he was saying, he was basically saying, this is, it's supposed to be a wonderful group and all of us are going to live communally in this wonderful environment, but yet what he was doing to these people, brainwashing them and then treating them like crap. He was just so, I mean, just so gone.
But
So
here's the
gone mentally.
I think he kind of knew as soon as he got there, like, and everything was kind of getting set up. I think he knew, like, hey, I have control of these people. Now I can kill these people. And I know that sounds weird to say, but I think that was his mindset. Like he already had these people saying, "Okay, nobody's allowed to leave. You're not leaving. If somebody tries to leave, you're going to get shot." Then he had this whole other house where he's constantly like radioing, like what you would call like the main house, actual
Mhm.
whole house. And there was like 3 people that lived there. And then I remember his son Steven said that they were going to go play a basketball tournament, and he told him, don't let anybody out of your sight. Don't talk to anybody.
He was so paranoid just from like of everyone. It was insane.
And I do know that there was a couple people that hid um when they I during I want to say murder. I don't believe that it was suicide. I know a lot of people were saying, okay, it was suicide. Some people may have done it on their own free will. Okay, honestly, well, kind of. But we got to look at the children. That to me in itself, that was
Mhm.
murder. Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely in that.
I mean, I don't even like Kool-Aid, so I've been like, I don't want it. But they were getting injected. People that
Mhm.
were resisting were getting injected. So I mean, there was murder, and I mean, I'm sure they figured, well, if I don't drink it or I don't inject it, I'm gonna get killed. So I guess you could kind of see it both ways there. Like maybe some of, I don't know. That to me is a little hard, but I know with the children, in my opinion, I believe that was just straight murder. Um,
Yeah, I'm leaning toward that too. I mean, especially with the children and a lot of these people I think were so brainwashed by him. So
like I,
that, I would lean more toward murder as well. Absolutely. Maybe there was a few people that had the free will, but still, mm-mm,
I don't think.
terrible.
I like I said, if there was people that wanted to leave, let them leave. I don't understand if people, we had the congressman come, and all you got was, well, he wanted to tell his side of the story, like what they seen, not what was really going on. And I thought, you guys were having a good time. Like there wasn't anything going on that would be out of the ordinary. If they wanted to leave, let them leave and move on with it. And I think he was afraid that everybody was going to leave and he would have nothing. And I did read where he wanted to be in power so much,
Mhm.
like he couldn't handle it. He wanted everybody under his thumb.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, when you think about it, going back to his childhood and he didn't have good parents and he felt unloved, going into adulthood, you're like, "Well, you know what? I gotta compensate for that. I gotta be in control. I gotta have all these people looking up to me." I mean, he would even say in his sermons, "I am a prophet." So,
But here's okay. I guess when it comes to and religion, okay, I try to stay away from that, especially on shows or whatnot.
mhm.
But let's factor it in. Everybody's probably been to church at least one time, okay? At least once. And it doesn't matter where, but it probably just at least once. And usually if you like the church and you're like, okay, I like that pastor, I'm gonna stay, or the priest or whatever, minister, whatever you guys want to call him. But you would never think, like, let's just use a priest. You would never think that like he would take that whole congregation and say, well, we're gonna move, you're all gonna be under my thumb. I think, I don't want to say that people are weak minded, but I think that sometimes, like we talked about, you know with Heaven's Gate, they
Mhm.
want to
Yeah.
belong. They want to belong someplace. They want to believe that this person is helping them. But this guy never said, hey, well, we're going to go on a spaceship. He just wanted everybody, didn't matter your race, sexual orientation, didn't matter any of it. He just wanted something better. And I think that's what everybody at that point wanted. But I think that
Yeah.
he also did kind of scare them like, oh, this is going on, so we have to move here. And that makes a big difference instead of saying, well,
Oh,
we're going to get
yeah.
through this. We're going to make a difference here in the United States. And he just never
Right.
wanted to do
Initially,
that.
he made it sound so attractive to everyone. And I think he was heavily, I read somewhere when I was doing reading on it, he was heavily influenced by someone named William Branham, who helped
Yes.
him launch the whole ministry. And he actually, through Branham, he got ideas on how to really get the people like under his wing, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, he was a great speaker. He could have done,
Hmm.
and there was some things that he did that was amazing, but I think he could have channeled it in a different way. And like I said, I know his son Stephen after this because they had to bring the Army and National Guard in because I think if I'm not mistaken, and I've read it, there was a couple. Here's where the issue kind of lied with me. Like I kept reading that it was like 913 people died,
Hmm. Yeah, something like that.
and then some. There was a couple articles where I read, I was like, oh, it was like 900. It doesn't matter. There was, well, it matters. It matters. Um, but it was somewhere in like the 900 range, somewhere in there, 950. We'll just give it that. Um, but his son, Stephen, actually they sent him to prison for 3 months to try to figure out if he had anything to do with what happened
Oh
during
my
that.
goodness.
Yeah,
I totally blanked on that. That's right.
they sent him, and he's like, I didn't do I didn't do anything. And he did say that he never mourned he never mourned his father's death. And I thought, well, it's your dad. But he did say he was never really a dad. He was just more of a dictator.
Yeah, no, if you listen to, and I really suggest not to because it's very, very, very difficult. I couldn't even finish it. But on the night that the suicide murder went down, which he termed revolutionary suicide, that was recorded, and it's about like
Mhm.
40 minutes or so, and you hear him talking, saying, just telling people, urging people like, "Oh, this is the best way out. We're not living here. Life sucks. This is, have your own salvation. We have to do this." And one of the first women that was talking was kind of not arguing with him, but she was saying, "Well, I think that the kids have a right to live. What about hope? We can go reestablish in Russia," I think it was.
Mhm.
And so he kept saying, "Nope, nope, that's not going to happen." And as you listen to the tape, as it gets closer to when everyone passed away, he got more emphatic with everything. And then he's like, "All right, get the medicine now. You're going to line up, and everyone takes a turn, the babies, they're crying." And then someone said, "Oh, they're crying because it's bitter." Well, no, they're crying because you gave them cyanide, and that's a very difficult death when you have cyanide poisoning.
Well, and like I said, I mean, let's look at it this way. I mean, even as an adult, I don't even like shots. Okay,
No, I
I
know, me
don't.
neither.
It's horrible.
No.
And I wouldn't, I mean, those kids, some of those kids were getting shots. And that in itself has got to hurt. Like, because I mean, if you don't hit I mean, I'm not a medical professional anyways, but I'm assuming that there has to be some kind of tissue someplace. But then I guess if they were just giving them shots, like, hey, you got to go, they didn't really care where they were giving it. They were just making sure
Just
that they were
giving,
giving
yeah.
it.
I think they
Not,
were squirting through syringes too in their mouths, but some
yep.
people some people got injections, but you can hear on the tape the kids crying in the background. You know exactly what's happening.
Oh, yes. And I know,
It,
like,
it's
a little
horrible.
bit, there was a documentary I was watching, and I've watched it so many times. I don't know why I've watched it so many times because I feel like I'm always finding something new when I'm
Yeah.
watching it.
Yeah.
Some new information that I've like missed, but at the end you can hear. I mean, you can hear I mean, I didn't listen to what you listened to, but like just at the end of that, you can just hear the kids crying, and they had
Mhm.
actual pictures of they just had actual pictures. Let's
Yeah,
just
they
put it
did.
that way.
They're on the internet too. It's sad.
And it's not something that I would personally I kind of after I hit a certain part in that, I just kind of skipped out of that. I didn't want to watch it anymore. I couldn't watch it. Um, so
Yeah, I know,
like I
I don't
said,
blame you.
that was just different. But I guess my question would be, why go all the way out there? I mean, there's plenty of other places that you could have just why different? I mean, I get the different country thing, like the jungle thing, I guess, but there was probably plenty of other places out in the country someplace that you could have just done it, and these people probably could have, I guess, escaped if they wanted to, but I guess it's going to be hard to escape in a jungle. So in a way, I kind of see what he was trying
Yeah,
to
I do too. I
accomplish.
think he felt too that the Guyana I think at one point he felt, don't quote me on this, that the Guyana that's or Guyana government was actually gonna support him at one point, but then and then there's this whole thing with Venezuela too. I think they felt that, oh, well, if there's some people from the US coming in to this part of Guyana, then it's gonna help this weird situation with Venezuela because I guess they weren't on the best terms. I read something about
Right,
that.
and I mean, I did too, but I don't want to say I didn't understand it. It was just it was vague.
It
But
was, yeah.
I do know that he got that the place in Guyana. He got that place for close to nothing.
Close to nothing, yeah,
Yeah, because
and
he
then
was worth millions, from what I was understanding.
yeah, I
Millions.
wasn't it something like 65,000,000 or something like that?
Yes, and we got to look at it as the fact of everything that those people owned was gone. They had to
Mhm.
sign it over. And then I read, I mean, the beatings. I'm not even gonna go into don't
The
look that up.
No,
Don't
it's some of
tell
it
it
is you
up.
it's so heart-wrenching, some of it I just can't I can't
No,
read about.
like I said, that there was, how can I let's just put it this way. Um, I do know that there was this talk about like if somebody accused somebody of pedophilia, the repercussions of that was outrageous, and you only had to be accused of it. Like, and then I heard that even if you were to go in as like a couple, like a married couple, it didn't work like that anyway. It didn't. That's not how it worked. Like you were separate from each other. Like you were not with your children, that they were kind of someplace else. Your wife or husband was someplace else, and that was that. Like you couldn't there was no marriage per se. He was the only one that was allowed to be married and have more children and do the drugs and drink where everybody else worked. Well, he just kind of sat there like on his
That's right.
throne.
It's, just I am prophet and look what I have created, all of this. I mean,
Mhm.
it almost makes Marshall Applewhite, the leader of Heaven's Gate,
Mhm.
seem like a day at Disneyland compared to Jonah. I hate to say that, but
Well, and I still haven't gotten an email back from them. I've been stalking that.
oh
I
my
know.
gosh, I would be careful on that. That's
I
just my
know.
advice.
I know. Yeah, okay,
'Cause
so little thing, I did email Heaven's Gates. I did, and I was on Nicole's show and we were talking about it. And I did email 'em, the email's still up. I do not suggest doing it. I did it
mm-mm.
for, research purposes only, but we all know I like to test the boundaries just a little bit. So I'm still waiting on that email, but yes, but I do have to agree, like, I think he allowed him to leave. He even bought him bus tickets. I mean, so that in itself, like, I don't wanna say he was that cruel because he kind of was, but he
But in
wasn't
a nicer
right.
way, like in a nicer, more gentle
Right,
way
like,
than
if he didn't think that you were good enough or you wanted to leave, he was letting you kinda do that
right. I
in a
mean,
way. Uh, because like when you sit and compare those two, I mean, if I had to choose, I'd go to Heaven's Gate. I'm sorry, I wouldn't want to go with Jim Jones and sign my life away and not be able to leave, because I know that there wasn't very many survivors of Jim Jones in that People's
No.
Temple. There wasn't, and people were hiding underneath
No.
their bed, which is really kind of sad. I mean, I would have probably hid underneath my bed. I'm like, okay, here's White Knight, I'm going. Because they knew what was coming. They had to. As soon as they found out that the congressman was shot, they knew that was the end of it. There was no going back, and they knew that somebody would be coming for them one way or another, and that
Yeah, and
they
there
knew
were
trouble
people
was
even
coming.
right, and there were even people, members actually. I'm referring to that 45-minute tape. There were members even saying, you know what, like supporting him, like, yep, we need to do this. This is, we need to do this. You can just totally tell that they were just totally brainwashed.
But I guess to me, okay, like this is supposed to be one big happy family, right? And I don't know how he got those gunmen to sit and want to turn on the people that wanted to leave. That in itself.
I
But
thought that too.
they were doing drills, and they were using rubber bullets, which at that point, I would have just laughed. I would have ran. I mean, I know there's really not really anywhere to run to because you are in the jungle. Eventually, but I would have ran. I would have figured it out one way or another. I think, if you,
I would have tried too.
I mean, it's a rubber bullet. I mean, you're going to be all right at the end of the day. But the gunman that gunned down the congressman, he went to prison, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's out.
Oh, I didn't know
Yes,
that.
he
Hmm.
he went
When
to
did he get
prison.
out?
I think a couple of years ago, to be honest with you. I think he's out, and I think it was a couple of years ago. I think he maybe spent 7 years. Don't quote me on that, but I think he's out, and I think it was only 7 years.
Has anyone actually interviewed him?
I have
Do you
not.
know?
I have not, and I've thought about it, like trying to. But a lot of these people don't have Facebook.
Oh
And
yeah, they're for protection, of course,
right, and I'm wondering if maybe he changed his name. I mean,
That
I
could
would
be.
have.
Maybe like the witness protection program or something like that.
Right, and you would have to. I mean, because I've thought about reaching out to some of these people, but I do know, I was trying to find his son last night to see if maybe I could just, talk with him a little bit. But I did read it. Like I said, I did read an interview, and he said that every time he does talk about it, there was a point where he was always in therapy over it.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was like, I'm not gonna rehash that, if you're in therapy. Especially, you were also accused of helping, when you spent 3 months in prison in Guyana. I mean, I'd be scared,
That poor guy. Oh my gosh, that had nothing to do with it. Can you imagine spending 3 years or 3 months in prison and you didn't
Yeah,
even do anything? And that happens. People are wrongly
right.
convicted. It
And
sucks.
then, especially in a different country, and he
Mm-mm.
basically, I mean, obviously, let him go. He's got a family now. He's got children. Um, but I think, I mean, how would you even get yourself out of that? I didn't have anything to do with it. I mean, I guess the recordings helped.
Yeah, I
The
think so.
survivors helped. But I know that he did not want to go back to Jonestown because he was in a basketball tournament, and he told his dad, I'm not going back. And he found people in the house that killed themselves. Like, this lady killed her own kids with a knife. That in itself, how could you do that? It's your own children.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable, the brainwashing.
Well, and like I said,
Unbelievable.
I know that they were doing that whole White Knight drill. So they were up, and he would talk for 3 hours.
Mhm.
3-4 hours, and then he'd let them go back to bed, but then they'd have to be up. So I guess like I said, it was just kind of one of those things. Like, now you're sleep deprived, so you're kind of getting delusional. So that makes a big difference too.
Yeah, I read too, all these health issues that he had, and then he started to slur his words, which could have been, of course, the sleep deprivation, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think there were a lot of fears, but he just became so utterly paranoid. He always was, but it got to the point where he thought, okay, we're finished. They're going to end us, so we need to go out the right way. Well, according to what he thought. I mean, obviously that's not the right way, but in his mind, he thought it was.
But here's the thing, I guess, in my
It's
opinion,
crazy.
and this, if the people that wanted to leave, because I guess there was only like a handful of people, I think if he just let the people leave that wanted to leave, like, and fine, let the kids go at the end of the day. If their parents wanted them to go, I mean, you can't make them go. But if these people wanted to leave, just let them go. I mean, you got like 900, or there was like 913 of you guys. I don't think a handful of you guys would have made a big difference to you. But I just feel like the whole here's the thing. There's people that could have taken him over, okay? Let's just be
That I
honest.
know.
There
I
was a lot of
know.
them that could have taken him over. So in all
Yeah.
actuality, if you wanted to leave, you could take them out. There's people with guns. There had to have been other people that knew where all these drugs were to mix it all together.
The
Will he?
doctor there that knew.
Right. So, and here's the thing. The weird thing is his lawyer was able to get away. They let his lawyer leave. He knew as soon as they started bringing out all those drugs that was like, oh yes, he told me I could leave. Are you kidding me? You weren't told to leave. You were not told at all.
Unbelievable. I think too, another reason why, the main reason why he didn't let people leave is because he thought they were going to turn on him. The paranoia thing again.
Well, I mean, he was on so many drugs, and
Mhm.
and like I said, I don't think he did a bunch of things wrong where he would have actually been in trouble, except for the drugs, honestly, and maybe some of the, again, being accused of certain things,
The
and
abuse.
yeah, um, and stuff like that. But again, if you have these guns, why not shoot them? You had the power to do it. I mean, I think that they may have been scared at
I
that
think the
point too.
fear, I think there was a lot of fear, and it's possible that there some, because I read that the lunch that they had the day that of the whole,
Hmm.
murder suicide apparently could have been laced with some sort of, like, sedative, so maybe they got that. Maybe they were given these
Oh,
sedatives a lot, and so that just subdued them.
right.
We don't know.
Well, and that's actually a really good point, though, I will say, because I mean, you wouldn't know. Nobody would know. He would know, or whoever's cooking that food would know. And you would have to, think that he would have to really trust that person. And I heard he wasn't that big of a trusting person, but if there was only like a handful of people, maybe, that he really trusted. So could you imagine like that person having to lace all these meals with a sedative or anything?
It's disgusting. I mean, the amount of drugs too. I mean, how did they get that? Number 1, and when you look at the aerial shots of, I think it was
Mhm.
around 3,000 acres,
Mhm.
900 people in just that, and you see the little homes.
Mhm.
I've always said to myself, how did 900 some odd people all live there comfortably?
I don't know because
I
like I
mean, you
said,
see the little homes, it's like, that's not enough for 900 people. Where do they sleep?
in cots like bunk beds.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
that's how it
Mm.
was. Like they had so many people in one of these things, and like I said, like they had, I don't know how many homes they technically had, but I know that there was a place for the children, a place for men, a place for women, because there was no, like I said, there was no marriage. Um,
Right.
Like, you didn't get your children. You didn't get to hang out with your children. Somebody else was raising your kids.
It was like they were slaves in a way. Well, they were technically. I
Mhm,
mean, and imagine the sleep deprivation and then their diet a lot of times, they just only ate rice and beans, I think it was, and maybe some meat with sauce or whatever. So, I mean, imagine. And then they at one point I heard that I think it was a third of 900 people started getting and so I don't know if fever or like a jungle sort of virus, but can you imagine all the sleep deprivation, having to work all those long hours, you're being treated like crap, and then you're sick on top of
mhm.
that. Like, no. Horrible.
And like I said, the only thing that I could think of is if people were giving up their medications and getting refills because they were there for. I mean, he had that whole thing because I know that it started what in California, if I'm not mistaken.
San Francisco. Oh, no, I think
Yes,
it moved to San Francisco. Wasn't it Indiana? I think it started. But yeah, San Francisco
yes,
was the headquarters, I think, the
yes,
headquarters.
something like that. And then it was so basically he had this going for a while. So of course those followers just probably like, okay, you don't need your drugs. Just go ahead. That's just my theory on that because I have no idea. I don't know how you would even get your hands on some like any of that. Like, I don't know what doctors are like, okay, what do you need today?
I
You know,
know. I mean, they
but
were like narcotics and stuff, like
right.
Valium and
But that's the weird thing. Like, what happens if those people really technically needed that medication, but he's taking it? And he was so high on like so high on this stuff that I don't think he realized what he was doing, honestly. I think he was kind of out there. Like he needed it to survive at the
yeah,
end of the day.
he was gone. He was gone. Completely lost.
But then my like I said, I would have assumed like his wife cuz I mean, he still considered her his wife. She would have been like, "Dude, you need some help. Like we're going to have to get this under control. If you really believe in what you're doing here, we need to get you some help." Like, I think she kind of had to play a part in that too. I mean, she couldn't be
Yeah.
that afraid of him. And I, if that was me and he was acting like that, I probably would have shot him myself. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I,
Put him out of his misery. I hate to say that, but geez,
it's true because I think to myself, like, you could have saved how many people? Those people probably wouldn't have turned on you. I mean, at the end of the day, people would probably be cheering, like, oh, thank God I can go home or to whatever they have left, which is probably just some of their family. Um, and like I said, what did he think was going to happen when he sent people to gun down the congressman? He didn't think that there wasn't going to be any repercussions. And I think, like I said, he knew when that congressman came. I believe that he already knew that he was going to have this whole thing together.
Oh, I think so too. I think so too. I thought I heard, don't quote me on this. I thought I heard in that last 45-minute segment that he didn't know that the congressman, unless I misheard this, that he
Hmm.
didn't know the congressman was going to be shot. It was something that he said, and I thought to myself, no, 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 no. You knew. You knew
Hmm.
what was going to go down. You absolutely knew.
Because somebody is not just going to go shoot somebody. Like
No.
I thought that they were given orders because then he came like, oh, the congressman was shot or gunned down or something. And I'm like, what about the other people that you gunned down? Because he didn't want anybody leaving. I don't
Mm-mm.
know. Like, I think if because I know that his lawyer said you need to let him in, so that way they could see how happy everybody was. But he also coached him too to say, hey, we're not gonna do this, and that makes I, I don't know. Oh, just tell everybody what a great place this is and why you love being here. Well, if you don't want to be here, then go home or to
Right.
whatever you have left, I guess,
Yeah.
to
And
say.
members were starting to say, "Oh, well, it's not as nice as what people think."
Well, not if you're working like that and
Mm-mm.
he's doing this whole white knight drill and like practicing,
Sermons all night long till
yeah,
3 in the morning, and oh my gosh.
I couldn't, there's no way. No way.
Mm-mm.
So I know we only got a couple minutes left, and we're going to wrap this up. But I do want to let everybody know that Nicole does do a show, Afterlife Chronicles, which comes on after Realm of Darkness. Got to remember what's going on, like, wait, what? And she's got, I know your last guest, I didn't get to watch last night, but what was it about? So everybody can go
she
back and
was
try to watch it.
great. Yeah, so I had Ellie Molina on last night, and she lived in New York. She and she works out with kids and adults and helps them develop their intuition and their psychic awareness and all of that. So she founded, I think it's Mind Power Consulting and Psy Kids. So it was a really good show. She was great. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. She had a storm back in New York too. What was that?
Oh, I said I was going to actually go back and watch it tonight.
Oh yeah. And oh my gosh, yeah. I love watching Realm of Darkness before. I love how you and Ashley bounce off each other. There's like this really cool chemistry going on. So.
Oh, I
loved your guest last night too, Bruce, right? He was great.
Yes, Bruce. Bruce is actually my cousin.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, yes. I was listening. I'm like, wow, they seem like they know each other really well. Oh,
yes. I've actually only met Bruce one time at the family reunion, and I only have like one of his books.
Oh, that's so cool.
So yes, actually, Bruce is my cousin. And then like Ashley, poor Ashley. I'm like, wait a minute, like, what's the difference between fiction and nonfiction? Oh, really? And then last night she's like, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh my God, it happens. It happens to the best of us.
And I was like, oh, and then that's Ashley, but she's at Hinsdale tonight with her dad and uncle. They've never been on a paranormal investigation, so she that was actually their Christmas present, so they had to book that.
Are they still like an overnight sort of thing?
Overnight? They are going to overnight it.
Oh, great.
Yes. And I think, her dad is a huge supporter, a huge fan of, just the radio station in general. I mean, I know he listens to everybody, and I do. He's such a great person. He does. He listens to all of us. And, she just thought she'd kind of give back to him because he's never been on an investigation. So that's what they're doing tonight.
Oh, oh my gosh. I bet they're going to have so much fun.
Oh, yes. Because I know Hinsdale was on my bucket list, and she asked if I wanted to go. And I was like, oh, I wish I could, but I can't.
There's always a next time.
Well, there is a next time, and Ashley's fun to work with. And I know, what was it? You do a lot with the Queen Mary, don't you?
I do, yeah. Well, she's been closed now with COVID, but they're planning on opening it up. I think in October.
Okay.
So yeah, no, the Queen Mary, Queen Mary is like my second home. I'm there all the time.
Yeah, I see that a lot on your Facebook
all the time. Just not in 2 years. I've gone to visit, but not. It's like, wait, I haven't been on board in 2 years. What? Crazy. I mean, that's insane.
I've only been there like one time my whole entire life.
You should come back out for sure. There's so many cool. You're what?
My brother lives out in California, so I actually was planning a trip this summer.
Oh, what part?
Carlsbad.
That's like 25 minutes north of me.
Oh yeah,
pretty much San Diego. So hello,
Nicole are getting together.
All right, it's on. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. There's a lot of cool places in the Midwest though too. You guys have some really cool places out there.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, no, there's a lot. I'm like,
there's a lot.
I haven't been there. I want to go here. I want to go there. Yeah.
Well, I spend a lot of time like in Ohio, New York, Vermont, like probably lately more Ohio than anything because Ashley lives in Ohio. So it's for me and Ashley, it is what it is.
How far apart are you guys?
Technically, if I just drive, it's 6 hours.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad at all. It's like from here to Lost Wages, or as we call it, Las Vegas.
I've only been to
AKA
the airport
Lost
there.
Wages. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the good old McCarran Airport in Las Vegas. Yes. I used to
But
live there when I was a kid, so I lived there for like 7 years, but
oh, okay.
yeah. No, not as an adult. No, thanks.
No, I live
Yeah,
in a small
no.
town now. I can't really do much of anything, but no, I have to go visit my brother and I guess my nephew this
Good for
summer.
you. Awesome.
Yes. But we'll let everybody go for the night. And remember, Nicole is on right after Realm of Darkness. I never can get
Yay.
the time together. So,
It's all good. It's all good. I'm glad I have another show.
so thank you again for coming on and thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.